Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for spending a good part of your day with us. I know this is probably not the most entertaining nor the most productive thing you could be doing today, but it is very important for us. It's very important for our republic to do this. Real quickly, just one issue I want to touch on, and it's something that I'm hearing when I go back to Georgia, especially from local banks and credit unions, is the FinCEN customer due diligence rule. And most of them feel that for a part of it is very intrusive and burdensome, and they're still unclear on a lot of the compliance, and they find it very difficult to implement because of the lack of clarity. And if I can, I'd like to share just a few anecdotes of some of the things that I have been told recently by these banks. One of the most common frustrations is that FinCEN has been very vague in telling banks what to do if a new customer wants to open an account, but can't provide the required information. They say the OCC has indicated they shouldn't even open the account in that case, and that FinCEN has provided no guidance on the issue. Another one is if an existing customer wants to open a new account but is unable to provide the required information or refuses to do so, should the bank terminate the entire relationship or just not open the new account since the rule went into effect on May 11th? If the bank closes all the accounts, is that frowned upon as de-risking by the regulator? So they get kind of caught in this no-win situation. But if they do open the account, many times they feel they're in violation of the regulation. And so it's resulted in significant delay for a lot of the customers. Another problem is when the customer opens a new account, then 2 weeks later they want to get a debit card, and a month later they want to enroll in online banking. The banks don't know. Do they have to fill out the forms again for each one of those events? Some banks have used forms that simply certify that beneficial ownership hasn't changed, but bank examiners saying that's not acceptable. Another main concern is that banks are now having to ask people who have been their customers for years, even decades, for this information. Their customers don't understand why the bank is asking them, and now they think that the bank no longer trusts them, and it hurts the foundation of the bank's relationship with the customer. An example, a longtime customer simply changes their address. Nothing else has changed other than address. The new beneficial ownership forms do they have to be completed? This also applies to routine renewals of lines of credit, certificate of deposits, et cetera. And the last one, the rule is also causing issues for accounts that may not have a clear beneficial owner, such as accounts for class reunions, civic organizations, school clubs, and churches. In one case, a child was recently diagnosed with cancer, and the school did a fundraising campaign to help the family. The mother worked at the school and was a customer of the bank, but the bank turned her away because they were afraid of getting the beneficial ownership questions wrong. So my question is, I'm sure you're aware of these problems, and since FinCEN currently does not have any plans to issue formal guidance for the CDD rule, what would you suggest that banks do to get clarity on these specific issues?
Well, you've asked some very good questions, many of which I'm not going to answer the specifics of, but I will follow up with FinCEN, the OCC, and others, because as I've said before, I'm a big fan of proper regulation, but I'm also a big fan of proper guidance so that they can follow the regulation. And I think you've raised a bunch of issues. I will say, as a broad comment, customer due diligence is very important. We need to have banks know their customer, and we need to get this right between what is particularly on small banks a big burden and the customer in making sure we have the information. I've been a customer who has to provide this stuff, and I know it is quite difficult, and many of the minor changes we should make sure that the banks know how to deal with these issues.
Okay, and I thank you, and I look forward to your response on these in a little more detail. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentlemen,